Our film begins with snow falling and a woman carrying red roses through the streets. She makes her way to an art exhibit where she marvels at a beautiful statue called Nabi. As she looks at this statue, she eventually turns and walks away. Turns out her name is Nabai. Her pained expression and the reason she's walked away soon becomes clear. We then cut across to see Nabai's world come crashing down. Her boyfriend Hyun-yu has been cheating on her. When he finally shows up at the bar after she watched him flirting and getting cozy with another girl, she curses him out and ends their relationship. The day of her breakup, a suave stranger shows up and sits with her at the bar. There's no such thing as fate indeed. He thinks her name is So-ri and completely mistakes her for someone else. Only fireworks clearly spark when they lock eyes. He eventually cancels on his blind date, intending to stay with Nabai for the night instead. The two hit it off too, with talk of Jaeyeon's butterfly tattoo and playing virtual darts. This encounter sticks with Nabai, as she recalls further moments together throughout the episode. Cut around this though is Nabai's intent to try and move on and forget her unfaithful ex. An inked marking of a butterfly on her forearm helps. Or, well, it does to begin with. During her date she decided to leave after overhearing Jaeyeon on a call with someone, telling them he misses them. Nabai finds herself caught up on this, which she carries with her back at the studio. Her and Yoon-sol are tasked with raising their GDP scores but have very different ways of going about it. While the latter continues to drink and have a good time, Nabai gets stuck into her work and tries to find inspiration. That inspiration eventually appears that evening when Nabai heads out and learns Jaeyeon is the new junior on the team. He specifically asked for her to show and drink as well. Those drinks then turn to games and laughter. The pair keep their feelings in check though, at least until the topic of cheating comes up. Nabai is visibly uncomfortable and Jaeyeon takes the opportunity to encourage her to join him in ditching the group. They intend to ditch the group and pick up where they left off from their last encounter. Now, it's worth bearing in mind that Jaeyeon is pretty touchy-feely, taking all the opportunities he can to touch Nabai. In Western culture, this is, of course, normal flirting behavior. In reserved Korea, however, it's pretty taboo. After their evening together, though, Nabai finds herself thinking about him a lot. "What am I doing?" she sighs. You know that feeling when you get those butterflies and nervous energy, desperate to see your crush and hopefully strike up a conversation? Well, Nabai is experiencing that here and doing an excellent job portraying it too. She heads up to the smoking terrace in the hopes of catching a glimpse of Jaeyeon at the workshop across the way. She even constantly checks her phone and group messages too. This comes at the expense of neglecting her sculpting work though. Well, that evening Jaeyeon stays late with Nabai and after some light flirting, winds up sketching while she does the intimate sculpting work on her piece. Afterwards, in the dead of night, the two exchange numbers while the petals fall from the trees above. The pair get on really well, but as Jaeyeon leans forward to give her a kiss. Later we see Nabai contemplating whether Jaeyeon is the real deal or not. She's warned by Bitna that Jaeyeon is a player, which certainly unsettles her. Well, after rocking the boat, the two are left alone at lunch. Granting him his wish, Jaeyeon takes Nabai into a nightclub for them to hang out. However, she's taken aback by the volume level. He eventually encourages her to dance with him though, as the pair stare into one another's eyes. Things soon go awry though when Jaeyeon heads outside for a cigarette. A girl wearing leather appears and seems to know Jaeyeon quite well. She even has a butterfly tattoo on her wrist. It certainly makes Nabai feel uncomfortable. According to Jaeyeon, they went to the same academy but don't have much history. Still reeling over what she was told earlier on in the episode, Nabai eventually decides to part ways with him and head home. In the studio, Nabai has her picture taken by Bitna. Midway through shooting though, Jaeyeon suddenly comes bounding in and fusses over her, asking if she's okay. He quickly encourages her to head out and eat, holding Nabai's hand and deciding they should eat together. He also sends numerous messages to her. When I say numerous, I mean an absolutely relentless barrage of text messages. After a pretty raunchy dream, Jaeyeon wakes Nabai up with another missed call, and she hurries into school. She's late for her class, but Jaeyeon happens to be in the same lecture. He eventually parks himself next to her, but she pretends to be asleep, especially when a spot appears on her face overnight. Nabai's presentation begins, but things immediately go awry when she feels her period come on. Oh man, what awful timing. She hurries out class, but Jaeyeon follows. He helps her out, promising not to tell anyone about her accident. Up on the rooftop, the rest of the group join together and arrange heading out for drinks. Here we learn Sehun has a crush on Sol and has decided he wants to open up and admit how he feels later that evening. Nabai shows up too, although she's immediately on edge when she hears the other girls discussing Jaeyeon's popularity. Among the others in the restaurant, Nabai is sat next to Minsang and Eunhan. The party really gets started though when Jaeyeon shows up. As they head outside for some air, Minsang gets involved again. He asks outright about Nabai's mood, but Jaeyeon interjects. He nonchalantly claims there's nothing going on between them. Poor Nabai, you can see the joy drain from her face. Nabai heads off to the bathroom to cool off, where Bitna follows and encourages her to see the bigger picture. According to her, Jaeyeon does like Nabai, especially with the whole lime drink gig. When they do talk again, Jaeyeon decides against them dating and queries whether they can just be close. Eventually the party heads back to the dorms. The kids all loudly play Spin the Bottle, but neighbors arrive to tell them to keep the noise down. When Nabai confronts them, Jaeyeon tellingly puts his arm round her. In the midst of all this drama, the whole Sehun situation is complicated further by Ji-won's inclusion. It's very obvious that she has the hots for her, and their Spin the Bottle game ends in disappointment when she's not able to kiss her. After the party, Nabai heads outside and notices Jaeyeon with another girl. He's clearly seeing other people and Nabai catches him in the act. When they're alone, he admits he wanted to kiss her. Eventually the pair do lock lips, as lots of question marks are left over where this one may end up next. We see Nabai walking away from Jaeyeon after their kiss together. Heading inside, she thinks over the night's antics and deliberates over exactly what the emotion is that she's feeling. She hopes it's love before getting a good night's sleep. In the morning, Nabai looks over her search history and notices lots of random internet searches about kissing friends and what it means. It's actually a really relatable scene and one that sees her settle on an article claiming she'll become SPs, which seems to translate across to sex partners. Yoon-sol snaps her out her thoughts though, hinting that her feelings could well be lust rather than love. This continues into class 2, as she perks up when Bitna starts talking about relationships and how they differ to casual sex. After their meet, Yoon-sol heads out for food with Do-hyuk, whom she tries to pay back. Eventually they settle on a coffee while sitting down to eat together. After, they contemplate whether to meet up again or not. Outside though, they're spotted by Ji-won, who's just left the cinema with her +1. She obviously has feelings for one, so it certainly comes a bit of a shock seeing her with someone else. That evening, Nabai heads out to visit Jaeyeon after going crazy following his period of radio silence. While she's out, she ends up seeing him with Seole, a friend who's just arrived from the airport. Heading into the convenience store, Nabai ends up exchanging numbers with the junior from the party, Eunhan. Interestingly, Seole and Jaeyeon happen to be watching their interaction take place from afar. Jaeyeon claims she's just a friend, but Seole sees through this facade, believing there's more to it than that. Meanwhile, Nabai and Eunhan start texting and agree to visit the festival together. Only Nabai ends up with a cold, coughing and feeling under the weather. Bitna isn't exactly enthralled with her getting close to Eunhan, and even casts more doubts over her choices when she tells Nabai that Jaeyeon doesn't date anyone. While discussing watching a movie, John suddenly shows up and tries to butt in. Nabai quickly takes him outside though and tells him to stop. This then paves way for Nabai and Eunhan to start growing closer together. In the midst of their happy times together though, Nabai is reminded of her ex. After all, this is how they got started with eating and dating innocently. The date night ends with no kiss, as Nabai claims she needs to sneeze and ends things abruptly. That night, when she reflects on what happened, she realizes they don't have the same spark that she had with Jaeyeon. Well, the kids all decide to attend the flea market that night. After speaking to Ji-won about her growing affection for Sol and what got her into art, Nabai eventually meets Eunhan. While she's gone, Ji-won ends up jealous when she notices Sol is there with a guy. Eventually, she shows her hand and heads off for a smoke, unhappy with one leaving her out. Meanwhile, Nabai meets Eunhan but sees that he's actually there with a girl he used to like. Apparently, she just started contacting him again, which causes Nabai to face another rejection. It crushes her too, as she tentatively says hello and walks off. While lying in bed, Jaeyeon calls her, but she has obviously deleted his number. While talking, her phone dies when he asks to meet. Nabai eventually heads out to the shop to buy some medicine, not thinking anything of this. While she's gone, Jaeyeon calls 911, believing something bad had happened. Obviously, nothing has, allowing the pair to eventually sit down and eat together when Nabai heads back to her apartment. After, Jaeyeon carries Nabai to her bed and begins reading to her after tucking the girl in. He admits he's been attracted to her since the beginning. Eventually, though, the pair end up falling asleep. In the morning, Jaeyeon helps put Nabai's hair up, but you can cut the sexual tension with a knife. In bed, the pair kiss. However, it soon turns into so much more. In the next scene, we see Nabai and Jaeyeon waking up in each other's arms. Wrapped in a heady cocktail of lust and love, Jaeyeon pulls away from this and gets ready to leave. Before he does, he double-checks with Nabai whether they can hang out later on. When he leaves, Bitna notices him walk away from the restaurant. It turns out she's blacked out the night before, including her drunken rough and tumble with Kyuhyun. He doesn't want to be friends though and believes they should be more. When she rejects him, he sighs loudly and admits that he'll do his best to try and control his emotions. Meanwhile, Jiwon is still upset at Seol for her antics with the guys she's been seeing. She wants Seol to open up and be more truthful, including telling her about what she's been up to. That evening, Jaeyeon heads over to Nabai's place and hangs a butterfly suncatcher up in the window. Nabai thinks over those red flags across the 4 episodes thus far and decides to give in to her passion. After, Jaeyeon admits that he's going to get another butterfly tattoo soon. After describing it in detail, this one moment solidifies their whirlwind romance to come. The pair start to spend a lot more time together. In fact, Jaeyeon smooth talks her and continues to sweep Nabai off her feet. At least at night anyway. This is when they act like a couple and can really let loose. During the day though, they're separate souls and keep to their own schedules. In the midst of this, Jaeyeon heads off to visit Seol. They cryptically talk about butterflies and letting them go free, which seems to be in direct reference to Nabai. Anyway, he tells Seol he doesn't want to let Nabai go right now. Well, Nabai rings and lets her know she's canceling on him for the time being. En route to see her mum though, she grabs the bus and ends up talking to her old school friend Do Hyuk. She hasn't seen him for nearly 10 years and they both warmly greet each other. They even exchange numbers too. However, all of this following around and lusting isn't enough for Nabai, and her encounter with Do Kyung seems to confirm that for her. She longs for someone to accompany her to her mother's place and to be her boyfriend. As she steps on the train though, Jaeyeon suddenly shows and grabs her hand. He smiles warmly. Gotcha! They walk off together, acting like a couple, and enjoying being in each other's company. That evening Nabai admits she doesn't really know very much about him. Sure, he has a butterfly tattoo and clearly has the moves, but who is he really? Well, Jaeyeon simply continues to kiss and hold her, dodging the questions, and the idea of being her boyfriend. Just then, Seol rings. Jaeyeon takes the call too, prying himself away from Nabai's loving embrace and answering it in private. Well, Nabai heads off that evening and uncovers Do Hyuk's restaurant. He's a culinary graduate and he's got a YouTube channel too, complete with 3,000 plus subscribers. The pair enjoy their time together, with Do Hyuk ironically making her seaweed soup given it's her birthday. Meanwhile, Bitna shows up at the same bar as Kyuhyun and slumps down on a table next to him. He's currently with a date and seems to show her jealousy as she loudly calls the place lame and decides to leave. At school the next day, Jaeyeon and Nabai continue to flirt. Although there's a line there to begin with, Nabai soon knocks that down. However, they're spotted flirting by Se-young from afar, who gossips with the others about this development. Jiwon soon shows up though, gaining an extended glance from Yoon Sol. The pair end up confronting one another in the alleyway later that evening too, although we don't see their conversation just yet. The next day, Nabai overhears a couple of kids talking outside. They discuss Nabai being Jaeyeon's latest target, and how surprising that is given how quiet she is. On the back of this, and a particularly scathing chat with her professor, Nabai feels like there's so many signs trying to convince her to break things off with Jaeyeon. On the back of this and knowing Jaeyeon, she contemplates breaking things off with him but can't bring herself to actually do it. Instead, she mentions her ex showing up and asks outright if he's seeing someone else. He nonchalantly declares that he's not, just as a random guy shows up in a car. He steps out and immediately smacks Jaeyeon in the face. We see Jaeyeon overhearing a couple of girls talking about him. Specifically, they comment on his dating and how Nabai is ruining her school life by getting involved with him. This then catches us up to the moments last week, as a random guy shows up and smacks Jaeyeon in the face. These antics interrupt Sol and Jiwon while they're arguing. Together, they phone the police and break all of this up. Outside, this man reveals himself to be the brother of a girl he's currently dating. So, he is seeing someone else. Anyway, Nabai questions him and calls Jaeyeon out for lying, questioning exactly what the nature of their relationship is. Given he called her a friend earlier in the conversation is enough for Nabai to end things. Jaeyeon's whole demeanor changes and he nonchalantly agrees. She scoffs, calling him a jerk until the end as she walks away. Elsewhere, Bitna continues to be caught up over Kyuhyun, shocked when he ends up eating mint ice cream out on a date. Given he originally told her he didn't like it because it's akin to eating toothpaste. It's a tough pill for her to swallow and she hurries off. Well, to begin with anyway. It turns out this blind date doesn't go to plan and Kyuhyun is ditched by her. When Bitna finds out, she's shocked that this girl would reject someone as good-looking as him. Meanwhile, Nabai reels over her breakup with Jaeyeon. So much so, in fact, that her professor worries that she's distracted and won't be able to finish her piece. This continues back home too, as she mulls over her final moments with Jaeyeon and struggles to eat. When she rings Jaeyeon later that day, she realizes his number has been disconnected. Despite their breakup, Nabai is obviously still missing him. Well, Nabai ends up running into Jaeyeon in the hallway the next day. She quizzes him about the necklace but he simply shrugs, telling her to throw it away. As Nabai walks away, Jaeyeon receives a call from Seole and hurries off. Turns out the girl has severe anemia and it seems like Jaeyeon has been paying her medical bills. He even puts his hair down too. This changed hairstyle is something Nabai suggested he do, so it's clear that he likes her. Well, Nabai instead heads back to see Do-hyuk. They sit and eat food together, where he mentions how much he likes her artwork and has a good feeling about it. Do-hyuk obviously likes her, and the chef can sense it too. He even makes an additional dish for Do-hyuk to give her. That evening, Bitna gets blind drunk. When Kyuhyun finds out, he heads down to pick her up. He tells the others that he'll take her home, as the other drunkards stumble away. Alone, Bitna calls him out for the mint ice cream debacle as the pair trade misunderstandings. It turns out he's suffering from insomnia and he tried mint ice cream as it's supposed to be a good cure for it. He's been thinking of her since their evening together and Bitna obviously has feelings for him too. She eventually agrees to jump on his back, as Bitna asks him not to see anyone else and just to date her instead. After a run-in with Jaeyeon outside, the kids prepare for a series of presentations where each of these sculptors discuss their themes and projects. Nabai is completely thrown by Jaeyeon showing up as she discusses what her project is about, which includes a possibility or hope of something happening. Each of the sculptors are given up to 3 helpers, and Jaeyeon is the only one who raises his hand to help Nabai. Jinsu also volunteers too, but his feels more like a sympathy vote. Tellingly, Nabai decides to tie her hair back through all this. Jaeyeon admits that he was drawn to her work and thinks it could be good to use metals. According to him, this is strictly work-related. That evening, Nabai and Jaeyeon end up at the latter's studio. With Jinsu running late, the pair have a chance to talk. He mentions how he wants to change now bit by bit. Still, it doesn't stop him getting handsy with Nabai and guiding her over to the metal works. Jaeyeon teaches her how to use the different tools, deliberately keeping himself close to her. Well, Jinsu doesn't show and Nabai eventually ends up heading home. The pair start to grow closer together again, this time as friends. Nabai's focus returns and her art sculptures get a thumbs up from the professor too. To top it off, a famous artist is heading into town and Jiyeon suggests they go together. Later that day, Nabai bumps into Seole outside. She drops her lighter with a butterfly insignia on and they get talking. Turns out she's actually dating Jiyeon and did so in the past too. When Nabai finds out, she symbolically takes her hairband out and walks away. Later at the gymnasium as Jaeyeon watches from the wings while Nabai dances. After, Jiyeon arrives to greet her, gushing over how impressed he was with her movies. These moments happen to be in the past, and soon pave way for that earth-shattering reveal last episode. This, of course, was followed by Nabai acting like a total badass and mentioning how Jaeyeon likes to make love before walking away. This single act sends Nabai off in her own direction as Jaeyeon struggles to get through to Nabai. As he sits with Seole, she admits that she's broken up with her boyfriend Chris. She looks at Jaeyeon for encouragement, but he's silent and continues to find himself ringing Nabai. Nabai ignores all this though and heads back to see her aunt. However, Do Hyuk also happens to be in town, which she's teased about. Apparently, they used to be really close in the past, with simmering romantic feelings between them. Yoon-sol soon rings though while she's with Jiwon. The girls want her to hang out, but Nabai has her reservations. Despite being told Jaeyeon won't be there, she still tells them she'll think about it. After hanging up, the girls contemplate going to the movies. Nabai heads out for a walk and ends up running into Do Hyuk while he's driving by. He suggests they head off to the beach together. There, he woos her with kebabs and a big revelation. He's never actually dated before. He continues, dropping the bombshell that Nabai is actually his first love. When she mentioned to her friend that she had a boyfriend, this dissuaded him from getting involved and happens to be why he didn't get involved with seeing her off when she left for Seoul. The evening goes well, with Nabai eventually passing out and sleeping in the back of his van. Do Hyuk watches her sleep before shutting the doors and letting her get a good night's rest. He, on the other hand, sleeps outside. Meanwhile, Kyu-hyun and Bitna continue to spend time together. However, the latter is not happy when he suggests they reveal the truth about their relationship together. While they continue to keep it a secret, the pair do head off for a romantic evening at a hotel. There, Bitna receives a call from a random guy and reveals she still hasn't deleted her dating app. Both of these facts make Kyu-hyun nervous and self-conscious. Eventually she leaves, calling him a nerd. Jaeyeon continues to struggle too, heading back to the studio and finding the place empty. He decides to wait for Nabai, but she's obviously not there. Kyu-hyun shows up though and the two talk. He mentions how upset and uncertain he is regarding what's happening with Bitna. Jaeyeon can relate to this too, still unable to get through to Nabai, who ignores his calls and texts. Nabai continues to do her sculpting with the face she's modeling looking a lot like Jaeyeon. Do Hyuk shows up though, and the pair head off taking pictures and discussing his vlog. Seole meets back up with Jaeyeon and drops a massive bombshell reveal. What she told Nabai was all one big lie. They weren't dating, but she also didn't expect Nabai to race off quite so quickly. When Jaehyuk finds out, he's completely crushed. He instantly texts Nabai and asks to meet so they can talk. As she contemplates what to do, her aunt only confuses things further by mentioning that dating is about meeting someone special to you, not necessarily the one who's the nicest. Despite this, Nabai continues to hang around with Do Hyuk. The pair head to the market together, shopping, where they meet Do-hyun, Do Hyuk's cousin. It's a slightly awkward meeting, especially when she leaves with his bike, forcing the pair to share a bike home. However, things take an awkward turn when Ji-eun suddenly shows up at her aunt's place while they're together. Do Hyuk stands and stares him down. After stiff greetings, awkwardness ensues. We see Kyu-hyun giving Bitna the silent treatment while they stand together at school. He believes they've broken up, but Bitna is quick to dispel that myth. They're soon interrupted by the other kids though, including an excitable Jiwon. Meanwhile, Jaeyeon makes his decision and drives up to blindside Nabai. She's of course off with Do Hyuk. However, what we didn't see last episode is Jaeyeon watching her from afar. He notices the pair cycling together and essentially follows them back home. Things are tense, but the rest of the kids showing up manages to cut the tension a little. Kyuhyun sits outside with Jaeyeon while Do Hyuk shows the others around and lets them make themselves at home. Things are awkward between Do Hyuk and Jaeyeon, which is only made worse when Nabai ends up in a car with them both en route to the amusement park. Jaeyeon mentions her meeting with Seole and despite driving, continues to shoot long glances at Nabai while she's in the back seat. At the amusement park, Jaeyeon continues to operate in jealous stalker red flag zone and eyes Do Hyuk laughing and joking with Nabai over by the dojums. Next up is the Ferris wheel with a number of different kids paired up. Among those happens to be Jaeyeon and Nabai. Nabai intentionally avoids eye contact until Jaeyeon outright admits that she's pretty, without breaking eye contact. He even reaches over to touch her hair, but she's very clearly uncomfortable. Elsewhere, there's a pretty cute moment between Yoon Sol and Jiwon too, with the latter scared of heights but instantly warming once Yoon Sol offers a hand. Anyway, the Ferris wheel ride comes to an end and the kids head back to Do Hyuk's place. Dooyeon is there and meets Jaeyeon with a warm smile. Do Hyuk is not only uncomfortable about her sister, he's also clearly concerned given Nabai's constant glances and looks over at the pair. Bitna senses this too and sits with Jaeyeon, asking outright if she's jealous. She reveals about Jaeyeon having a girlfriend before pointing out how charming Do Hyuk is. Anyway, Nabai shoots it down completely in front of everyone, claiming that they aren't actually romantically linked. She even takes offense to his confession about being his first love. During the evening's drinking game, everyone starts to get involved, with questions asked to different people. Bitna confirms that the noodle shop grandson is her type, while Do Hyuk asks Nabai who makes her smile the most among everyone in this group. She instantly mentions Do Hyuk, as a big old smile crosses her face. As Do Hyuk leaves to head off down to the beach, Dooyeon asks Jaeyeon a question. He immediately answers Nabai. As we later find out, that question was regarding who he wants to kiss that evening. Not long after, he openly admits that a girl has captured his heart, but won't reveal who. However, the game ends and the kids decide to just talk instead. As they do, a very drunk Jiwon confesses her true feelings to Yoon Sol. She holds her hand and looks in her eyes, telling the girl she likes her the most out of everyone. As she pleads, Jiwon eventually passes out. Down on the beach, Bitna and Kyuhyun sit together. The latter asks the girl to stop playing games with him. Unable to take this agony anymore, he breaks up with her. Back at the house, Jaeyeon and Nabai end up alone together at the house. Jaeyeon holds her arm and starts applying ointment. Eventually he reaches out and tells her he misses her. He asks for her permission before doing anything before leaning forward to kiss her. Nabai eventually reaches back and kisses him too. She notices Do Hyuk ringing and decides to continue kissing Jaeyeon. He instinctively pulls away and again for permission, but our walking disaster looks set to keep kissing him. We see fireworks, both in the sky and with our characters. With Nabai and Jaeyeon kissing, Do Hyuk senses something is up and heads back home. Nabai eventually pulls away from Jaeyeon and heads outside, where she runs into her childhood sweetheart. She agrees to let Do Hyuk take her home as she remains frazzled and unsure how she feels. Well, this is only made worse by Do Hyuk giving her a bouquet of flowers and trying to woo her. With tears running down her cheeks, Nabai admits that he's a good person but it's not a good time for her. Nabai lies, claiming she doesn't want to see Jaeyeon either, and this is strictly how she's feeling. He's clearly bitter and jealous, but Do Hyuk does a semi-decent job of hiding it. While Nabai leaves, Do Hyuk returns home where Jaeyeon stirs the pot. He intentionally riles him up as Do Hyuk's knuckles clench around the rejected bouquet. In the morning, Nabai heads downstairs and finds Jaeyeon getting cozy with her aunt, doing pottery. Nabai tells him to forget about their time and calls it a drunken mistake. With a pained smile, Jaeyeon claims that she really hurt him, telling him their time means nothing. With Jaeyeon gone for now, our gang all join for their morning meal. Jiwon is obviously suffering quite badly, while she sits back to back with Yoon Sol. The only one not at the table is Kyuhyun, who mopes down by the water. Their meal ends with Bitna deciding against comforting him and sighing loudly instead. Anyway, Nabai eventually gets the bus back home, with Do Hyuk there to see her off. After handing over some sweet treats, he rings her outside and admits he's not ready to give her up just yet. Yay, two toxic guys in her life. Do Hyuk holds up to his side of the agreement too, ringing Nabai and claiming the whole neighborhood feels empty without her. With him due to head up to Seoul shortly, she agrees to meet him when he shows. When the bus does eventually arrive back home, Yoon Sol quizzes Ji-won about her revelation the previous night. Tellingly, she wears a top that says, "Love you," in English. Anyway, for now they dance around the truth given Ji-won doesn't remember what happened. At the same time, Kyu-hyun decides he and Bitna should just be friends. Back at school, Nabai is conflicted as she notices Ji-yeon with a large sculpture, discussing it with some interested foreigners. The class query whether he may be being scouted, while Nabai braves a smile and tries not to get too involved in the gossip. Instead, she goes right to the source, where Jaeyeon admits he's going to give traveling to America some thought. Together, Jaeyeon and Nabai visit an art gallery. Nabai is clearly distant, but Jaeyeon does his best to get through to her. He holds her shoulders and guides her forward. After, they sit together, but Nabai's body language is one of closed and standoffish. She folds her arms and fails to hold his eye contact. Meanwhile, Seoul is also distant with Ji-won following her confession. She won't return her messages and struggles to hold a conversation with her friend. Instead, they all head back to class, ready for their latest art piece. Well, this time it's a drawing of a model. When the part-time model bails though, Jaeyeon steps up and agrees to fill in. During their recess, Do Hyuk shows up and ends up having lunch with Nabai. He has a whole load of food packed up for her too. As the two joke and enjoy their time together, Jaeyeon watches jealously from afar. Well, Do Hyuk has a chance at jealousy afterwards, especially when he learns Jaeyeon was the model used. When they part ways, Nabai learns she hasn't been selected as part of the exchange student project. Do Hyuk is beaming from ear to ear. He has a good feeling about this Nabai situation and thinks they could be dating soon. Well, Nabai's heart clearly lies elsewhere. As she heads up an alleyway, she thinks over her time with Jaeyeon. And behold, there is he, sneaking up behind her. We see a long shot inside the bar Nabai and Jaeyeon first met. It's a slow, smooth shot that focuses on the pair's back as they discuss Do Hyuk. Despite really liking him, Nabai is worried that he'll see the true part of her and be put off. When it comes to Jaeyeon though, well, that's something else entirely. While Jaeyeon heads back with Nabai, agreeing to head over to hers and help pack, Do Hyuk watches from afar as Nabai and Jaeyeon head inside together. It's a classic case of misunderstanding, but one that Jaeyeon takes full advantage of given he watches them together. As Nabai and Jaeyeon reflect on their past together, Nabai actually pulls away from kissing the boy. After rejecting the kid and sending him on his way, Do Hyuk messages and asks to talk. Nabai is none the wiser though and pulls away, telling him to meet another time, unless it's urgent. Defeated, Do Hyuk goes home. In the morning, Do Hyuk puts on a brave face and despite being cheerful and friendly with Nabai, it's clear the previous night's events are playing on his mind. In fact, it affects his cooking too, as his dumplings turn up less than desirable. While Do Hyuk contemplates whether to give up on everything, Jaeyeon leans into impressing Nabai as much as possible. He even creates a little butterfly emblem for her. Meanwhile, drama continues to ensue between Kyu-hyun and Bitna. The former takes her aside privately and hands over a delivery that was sent to his address. It's clear she did this as a conversation starter, but Kyu-hyun wants none of it and turns her away. While this is going on, Seoul and Ji-won dance around their real feelings. Seoul is even invited out on a date, but she rejects the boy, tentatively declaring that she likes someone else. Nabai is grilled by her professor during the critique, who expresses her disappointment in the girl for her project. After all, she was hoping it would be a good opportunity for Nabai to learn more from Jaeyeon, but consequently the results just haven't happened. Well, that's why you don't mix business with pleasure, guys. Just to add an extra layer of drama to the fold, Nabo also finds out she hasn't been accepted for the exchange student program either. While in the studio, she reflects on what's happened and speaks to Do Hyuk, admitting how this semester is the worst. Jaeyeon overhears and keeps this to himself, eventually agreeing to take the girl home. Just before dropping her off, he hands over the gift he's made for her. The next day, Jaeyeon meets up with Seol-ae just before she leaves to go to the States. Jaeyeon offers to meet her over there, but Seol-ae pulls away, determined to sever ties completely. She has romantic feelings for Jaeyeon, and given they're not reciprocated by him, she decides to cut her losses and go. One person who's not ready to do that though is Nabai. She speaks to Sol at the studio, who admits she thought Jaeyeon and Nabai actually were quite good together. She probes the girl over whether she's really over Jaeyeon, but it's clear her indecisiveness is affecting her art project, which is obviously more important here. It all goes back to the professor's critiques, as it seems like Nabai needs to make a decision about her Jaeyeon problem sooner rather than later. Meanwhile, Bitna and Kyuhyun continue to play games with one another. The facade is shattered though when Bitna sees that the guy has her number saved as "Oh my sunshine," which is pretty cute. It makes her smile, and Bitna eventually softens, asking him to be her boyfriend again when they head out for a date. Kyuhyun throws his arms around her, and the pair admit how much they've missed each other. This time though, Bitna is openly affectionate toward him instead of keeping it all a secret. That evening, Nabai heads out to see Do-hyuk, who thanks Nabai for her advice as his video got lots of views. However, he then goes on and admits he saw her with Jaeyeon the other night heading into her house. As she stands like a deer in headlights, he asks her outright whether Jaeyeon even cares. On her way home with the umbrella Do-hyuk gave her, she finds him waiting outside her house. She grabs her arm and openly admits that he knew about Do-hyuk and manipulated her into trying to break them off. Well, Nabai throws back that she regrets them being together and the hurt he's inflicted. After telling him she doesn't want to see him again, Nabai heads inside and shuts the door. But is it really over? The final week begins with Jaeyeon and Nabai still reeling from the previous night. With the rain lashing down, Nabai telling the boy she never wants to see him again has a big effect on them both. Nabai is certainly regretting her actions, unable to shake Jaeyeon's kind eyes rather than his multiple other red flags. At school, Nabai tells Jin-soo she doesn't need his help anymore and decides to continue on with her project alone. Well, she's not alone for long when Jaeyeon shows and holds her hand. She pulls away, walking off after giving him a dirty look. Both of them wallow in their own pain. Jaeyeon checks his phone constantly. Nabai stares out the window of her apartment. Meanwhile, Jiwon and Sol sit together and flirt, looking longingly into one another's eyes. Bitna rings Sehun though, needing to get into her laptop. Only, her password happens to be Totally Hot Kyuhyun, which she uses to get in and retrieve her files. Kyuhyun overhears and teases her. The school tragedy hits. A tired and fatigued Nabai finds her entire project ruined as the clay statue she was working on is in tatters on the floor. Was this a deliberate act? Whether it was or not, this is her entire module's work gone in an instant. The professor is equally exasperated, realizing that with Nabai's exhibition coming up then she's essentially going to fail by default. As rain pours down outside, Jaeyeon shows and offers to help Nabai try to fix her project. He promises that after helping her fix this he'll stay away just like she asked. And so the group work together silently to put the statue back together again. As they work day and night, the time Jaeyeon and Nabai spend together sees Nabai reevaluate her choice. This time though, she monologues on how Jaeyeon doesn't even offer her a lift home. Eventually though the project comes together. A rustic angel with tattered wings and a pained expression. With the project a success, everything is back to the way it was before. Jaeyeon doesn't miss a trick, giving her some compliments about how pretty she is and walking away. Just as promised, he's leaving her alone. Only Nabai isn't happy. Just before she skips out, Jin-soo hands over a green book that Jaeyeon wants her to have. At the same time, Jaeyeon packs up all of his tools and says goodbye to his butterflies. He lets them all out the window, watching as they fly away. As day turns to night, no one seems to know where Jaeyeon has gone. However, rumors are abounding that she left for the US. Nabai, however, is crushed that he's left without saying anything. As we soon find out, Jaeyeon hasn't left just yet and he's actually at home, lying in the dark and thinking over what to do. He hasn't left. He's just depressed. Do Hyuk gets some female attention from a couple who ask for his autograph. They're big fans of his videos and even want a photo too. With the semester over, Nabai shows to see him and confirms she's going to leave Seoul and visit her mum after the exhibition. After all, she's been nagging her to head over. Do Hyuk is excited for Nabai's exhibition and decides to head over and see the angel for himself after his interview. He tellingly mentions how impossible it was to fix everything up, but his face sinks when he learns Jaeon was the one there. I mean, Nabai doesn't say it directly, but the constant pauses and referring to them as a friend and someone speaks volumes. Still, Do Hyuk remains hopeful that she'll choose him. Nabai's conflicted emotions are only made worse when she heads home and checks the green book. Within this are numerous different sketches. One shows her standing amidst a sea of shadowy black shades. This is symbolic of their first meeting, when Jaeon lay eyes on her at the art exhibit. Since then, he's hoped to run into her again and hasn't stopped thinking about the girl. Well, it's exhibition time and all the gang show up at the gallery to admire Nabai's work. Her professor is incredibly proud of Nabai's work. In fact, she even offers Nabai the chance to spread her wings and go to Paris. It's a massive opportunity, but she can't stop frowning. Why? Well, Jaeon's not there. Do Hyuk arrives though, handing over a bouquet of flowers, but unfortunately knowing the truth. Nabai is in love with Jaeon and there's nothing he can do to change that. Although Do Hyuk shows up as promised, Nabai thanks him and apologizes for breaking his heart. Do Hyuk bows nonetheless and leaves. Well, the previous episode settled most of the big dramatic points for our supporting couples. In public, Seoul and Jiwon express how much they like each other while Bitna and Kyuhyun do the same. In fact, they outright admit how long they've been romantically linked, all the way back since the first year in the workshop. According to Bitna, she wanted to make him her boyfriend ever since they first met. While everyone is all smiles at dinner, Nabai realizes she misses Jaeon. She heads back to the exhibition where she finds Jaeon admiring the angel. Nabai calls him a jerk, especially given he never showed up on time and skimped out on showing himself earlier on. Nabai admits that she knows he's a jerk that toys with people's emotions but nevertheless feels better when she's with him. She doesn't want him to go anywhere, even if that means he'll continue to toy with her emotions. I know that it will cause me pain again, Nabai says. Nevertheless, I still... And then the scene cuts. As it does, we cut across to Jaeon and Nabai together walking hand in hand. Nabai contemplates letting go when she sees Do Hyuk but changes her mind, deciding to continue on this path she's chosen for herself. In fact, Jaeon even suggests they get some butterflies but she outright refuses. So nevertheless, leaves but let's reflect on the incident at the gallery. Now, I appreciate this was an accident, but what if it wasn't? It could well be that Jaeon intentionally sabotaged the statue and destroyed it just to get close to Nabai.